Hello, this is Riley Smith with MakeGood Creative Network. I have a video today I'm excited about. Like I'm usually excited about our videos, but I've been wanting to do this one for a while. We did a cool blog post a little while back with a bunch of bad acting advice. I asked a bunch of actors and screenwriters and comedians and directors what was the worst acting advice that they'd ever received. We got some winners here, so I wanted to share with you guys the worst acting advice that some network members and some friends of mine have ever received. The first bad advices are about acting as a career. The first one comes to us from Yenna Han. She's an actress and hand model and network member. I will link her. I'm gonna link everybody's info below so you can check them out, see what they're up to. But I really like this one. She said that the worst advice that she ever heard specifically was from Michael Shurtleff, and she's heard it from a bunch of other acting coaches too. Often actors ask me if I think they should go on trying to be an actor. I have the same answer for everyone who asks. If you have a choice and could reasonably be happy doing something else, by all means go at once and do something else. And Yenna's like, actors love to be pretentious and glorify their single talent when this is clearly an outdated myth, seeing how many talented multi-hyphenates there are. There are lots of people who act and do other things, people who act and direct, or people who act and sing, or people who act and do other things entirely that aren't even related to performance. You don't have to be a prodigy to have a successful career, and you shouldn't discourage other people from pursuing their dreams because of your own limited mindset. And how self-absorbed you have to be to paint it as the hardest career ever? This is coming from an actress. Sure, it's an unconventional career path full of uncertainty, financial instability, and rejection, so it's not the easiest career. It takes a lot of dedication, but most jobs are hard in their own way. Choose their hard. At least you get to tell stories for fun, do something you're passionate about, and focus on your growth. It's nowhere near as hard as being a surgeon, saving lives, or an abattoir worker in a slaughterhouse, or God forbid, a stage manager, which I think is hilarious. I think this is similar for writing too, and like a lot of things, is that yes, it is hard. But I think I would have a harder time working in an office than I would being a full-time writer, a full-time creator. So like Yenna said, it's choose your hard. And yeah, there's so many jobs in the world, like social worker, that's harder. So I think this is a healthy attitude, because it can help you stay encouraged. If you're like, well, this is hard. This is a hard thing that I'm doing. And other people say it's impossible, but it is not impossible. People do it. And there are other jobs that are much, much harder that I do not want to do. The next little story is from Juan Sebastian Cruz. He's an actor, musician, and circus artist. He helped us create our How to Nail Your First Audition guide, which is a really cool guide. You should check it out. Juan is a professional actor, and he helped us create this guide that can tell you exactly how to find roles, how to prepare for an audition, how to pick a monologue, all these hard little details that you might not get out of an acting class, but that are really, really important for your career. So check that out in the description below. Just saying, it's cool. But Juan told us about this is advice about his career that he got from just some rando, basically, like an engineer. And this is pretty classic. This is a classic story. I feel like all creators have this kind of story. Juan says he was back at his high school after his first year of college and watching a soccer game as an alum when he ran into one of the parents that Juan knew. He says, he was asking me about school, and I told him that while I was studying engineering at the time, I was really considering switching to something like music or theater. And he said more or less, listen, Juan, you need to stay focused. All right, finish your degree, get a good job, earn a living. then you can do whatever music or theater things you want in your free time as a hobby. That's how I imagine that guy sounds. And one says that it was exactly at that moment that I knew I needed to have a career in the arts, because that was most definitely not how I wanted to live my life. So it's so fun. This guy's advice like totally backfired. So yeah, really terrible advice from this guy. Really wanted Juan to be unhappy for the rest of his life. But glad Juan heard that and made a choice that was good for him. Next, we're going to talk about methods, acting methods. We've got Jake LaViola, who is a stand-up comic and set designer, and I've done a lot of comedy work with him. He says that he's gotten a lot of bad advice about anything to do with method acting. It's like, if you are required to become something in reality in order to be an actor, then you are a bad actor. Which, I like agree with this to the degree of, if you think that if you have to become an asshole and do asshole things in your daily life, then you probably need to find a different strategy. This advice does not apply to Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix, keep doing what you're doing. But everybody else, don't be a jerk just because you think it'll help you with the role. Next, we've got a fun one about how to be the best performer, how to be your best performer, from Stephen Starling Saltzman, who is a comedy writer, teacher, theater owner. He's the co-owner of Pornoia Theater and a Make Good Network member. He says that in college, I was in an acting class taught by a grad student. One day we had a sub. The class had been heavily focused on Strasberg. It was very academic. By contrast, with the sub, we were given the great secret to powerful acting. Always assume you have the biggest dick in the room. I have never shared this advice with any of my own students, but I have been incredibly tempted to share it, at least with folks who were AFAB and are cis, because it feels absurd and brilliant, and why not? Yeah, that makes me laugh. That one always makes me smile. We've got a couple good ones from Reb Johnson, good friend of mine. She's an actress and a comedian. Check her out. Of course, everybody's links are in the description below. Reb says that people have told her that it's just lying, that acting is just lying. And that's ridiculous. She says acting feels more real than anything and completely exposes you, and anyone who tells you to just lie is going very surface. I think that's an American superficial approach to a serious art. Reb should know she's trained in Shakespeare classical theater in London. And she says, and when they say pull from your real wounds, yeah, don't do that. You don't have control over traumas. And usually people can tell when someone hasn't healed from something and shouldn't be crying while ordering ice cream as a character. It's not as much about you as doing the work and separating your truth from acting. So this kind of sums up this, we've kind of talked a little bit about method and some of these other acting methods. This one from Barbie and Sua, who she's an art director and designer, kind of sums up what debate is really going on here. And I think what happens is that people who teach these methods tend to say, this is the way to do it. This is the only way. You have to do it this way. Here's exactly how you have to do it. And then once actors actually grow, they tend to form their own combination of influences. It's not all just this one method. It's not all just this one thing. You kind of figure out your own way to do things, which seems like an important part of any healthy growth process. I think that, and now this is me talking. I'll get to Barbie's quote because it's a good one, but I think that having a really well laid out, clear system is very helpful when you are starting out. This is why we tell new improvisers, don't ask questions. Now, obviously, that's a very basic rule. There's no nuance there. There's an underlying principle, a more complicated principle of how do we make sure two players are in agreement with a scene, in agreement on a sub level for the scene. And the easiest way to do that with new improvisers is to tell them don't ask questions. But once they get better, you don't have to worry about that anymore. If I am in a scene with other experienced improvisers, I know, and I get into a flow, I know I can ask questions. But when somebody is just starting out, you give them a system to work under to make it easier for them. But I think where people go wrong is by insisting that the only way to do things is to stay within that system for the rest of your life. Maybe just in general. Systems are made to be broken, man. All right, let's get to the quote. So Barbie says when she was studying acting, there were these two camps. There's the Strasberg School of Sense Memory and the Meisner School of Imagination. And in each school, there was a sort of a dogma, as you have to do one and not the other. She says that she started in Meisner and would secretly access memories because it was easier. Then in my method training, I'd slip into imagination without telling anyone. No, you don't end up on a shrink sofa if you go into memory. I mean, I may lie on that sofa for other reasons, but neither from acting. Plus, you could do way worse than lie on a therapist's sofa. So, great point, Barbie. And you're not cheating if you imagine. So my answer is the worst thing I heard was that there was a right way to do acting. Rubbish. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, and this is going to sound so obvious as to sound dumb, but it is like the rebuttal to like you have to do acting a certain way. The human experience is so varied that if you want to portray human experience starting with yourself as instrument, then you are going to have to figure out your own method to convert your instrument into performance. I'm a philosophizer. Similarly, we've got a quote from Roby Johnson, who is a really good friend of mine, a dramaturg. He got a master's in dramaturgy, and he's an experiential theater practitioner, so he does immersive. This is immersive productions. He says that he watched graduate school actors bend to the mercy of certain teaching styles, like we were talking about. Not only did it seem to remove a lot of creativity and interpretation because of the training's prioritization of certain aesthetics and certain values, but it also meant that they were constantly in their head about acting choices rather than being in the moment. And again, I can compare this to like comedic acting. If you were doing improv in particular, sometimes you have to throw out what you are teaching in order to help a student from where they're at. Like when I'm teaching how to use sense memory to pantomime, I was trying to teach like how do you eat a bowl of soup convincingly on stage. And we were talking about, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? And one of my students was like, "What are you guys smelling and tasting things?" And we were like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "I don't have sense memory like that. I don't see it." She's like, does it look real to you? Like she thought we were all hallucinating, but it's because her brain just worked in words and numbers. It didn't work in these visuals. And so like I had a whole class on sensory imagination that I had to modify for her. And I think that she would obviously not have enjoyed the Meisner School of Acting because her brain just didn't work like that. It couldn't bring up the visuals, and it definitely couldn't bring up like taste and scent. And everybody's brain is different. So that's what Roby is saying. Like if you try to make a method all important and dominate people coming in with it, you're really going to put them in their heads, and it's not going to work for them. They're not going to reach their full potential. He says, I saw a bunch of people coming to grad school excited for their futures and leave utterly destroyed in their passions. Sure, they knew how to talk the walk. Let me try that one more time. Sure, they knew how to talk the talk and walk the walk. I can't discount their professional development, but what's the point of refining a craft if at the end of the day you hate it? It's kind of like it's connects with what Yenna said of like, if you're so focused on like how miserable you are, if there's no sense of play, if there's no sense of creative joy in your creativity, I don't think you're going to reach your full potential. Roby says, this is a hot take, but it's my most fervent belief that this is the reason so much American acting feels stilted. It's because of these systems. So, a lot of shots fired from my American friends at American Acting. Now we have a couple on stagecraft. Aaron Garrett, who is Stephen Starling Saltzman's other half of Pronoia Theater and also a network member, says the most insufferable are the people who say not to rehearse because it will kill your ability to react. Yeah, so we have people on the other side. We've been talking about people who are too strict about a process, and then we have people on the other side who are like, just go for it. And no, like people always ask me, like, how do you have improv rehearsals? Like, how do you have improvised comedy rehearsals? What you do is you practice how to do the thing rather than like exactly what you're saying. And I feel like the same thing for theater and in the productions that I've been in. When you don't know the basics of like, when exactly do I come in, you don't have room to play. You're so desperately just trying to get your lines out at the right time or like not run into other people. You don't have room to actually play with your reactions and your interactions. So yeah, that's pretty dumb advice. Another one from Jake that I like. He says that he was told that as a performer in the background, just mouth the word watermelon over and over and it will look like you're talking. He's like, no, it doesn't. You just look like an idiot saying watermelon over and over. Let me try it. Yeah, that doesn't look very natural, does it? I don't think so. Tell me in the comments what you think. Next, we have from Ellie Griffiths. This is an improviser and an actor, and she is from England. So, not poisoned by our American system, as we've mentioned. I disagree with making arbitrary rules up just for the sake of structure. Wow, I'm sensing a theme. It can often backfire and make things more awkward. Please make sure your improv bits serve the audience. Does it serve? Does it serve you as performer? Does it serve the audience's enjoyment? If no one is getting enjoyment out of the thing, like, why are you enforcing it? So working with directors. I've seen this one happen before, and this is another one from Jake. He points out that when a director tells you to mimic exactly what they're doing, like just do it like this, granted that is sometimes all you can do for some actors. Yeah, if as a director, you leave absolutely no interpretation, or like, even if you don't want to leave any interpretation for the actor, you just want them to do exactly what you envision. Okay, you're a control freak, whatever, it's your movie. But you doing it and then expecting them to be able to copy it exactly is not going to work. You have to bring it out of them in a different way. They're not going to remember in their body how to do it, and they're probably, even like a really skilled impressionist would probably have a hard time just like directly copying you consistently after you do it the first time. We've got one from Thomas Magnuson, a writer and director. He says that he's never taken an acting class, but he has heard some directors say some pretty dumb shit. Like one time after a take, a director said, "That was perfect, just give me more." And the actors are like, "Well, get more what? Like you want some money? Like what do you want from me?" And he wanted more emotion and intensity is what he wanted. They figured out. So then every take they kept just saying the word more, until the performance was just comically over the top, which is a really good Whitest Kids You Know sketch, if you've ever seen it. But Thomas says he loves when a director says that something is perfect and then proceeds to note how what just happened was in fact not perfect. Next, we're going to share some funny little stories and bad advice from actors and comedians on booking work, which can often be the hardest part of being an actor. Which is why you should get our How to Nail Your First Audition guide. It will tell you how to find auditions and do a good job so you have a much higher chance of actually booking acting work. Okay, in the description, go grab it. We've got this from Kelly McNerney, a stand-up comic and sketch comedy writer. One person said I was very generic looking, and I was like, well, I can't really change what I look like. Also, what does that mean? And how is that a bad thing? Like, also, like, aren't there like a ton of roles for, like, you know, girl next door types and stuff? Like, no matter, even if like whatever you look like, there's probably a niche for you to find roles in. You just have to figure out what it is. So that was weird advice. That was just hurtful, just mean, probably just awkward and mean. Right, next we've got from Libby Smith, no relation. She's an improv comedian and actress. She says, because my voice is higher, I've been told that I need to lower the register of my voice for me to actually book roles, which obviously just made me more self-conscious than anything. In reality, you're really supposed to just embrace the qualities you have and use them to your advantage. Yes, that is much better advice. We've got a lot from Kristen Mothersbaugh, who is an actress and spiritual healer. She's got a lot of cool things going on. Check her out in the description below. I'm just gonna read hers, go straight through. Do something bold and stand out. Anything is better than nothing. Just get yourself seen. Only do what they are looking for. Maybe you should try to get on Netflix. Get on Netflix. Yeah, that's easy, right? Well, since you haven't made it by now, maybe you should just stick with your other work. You look like this and you should only go for those kind of roles. You don't have that within you. That's not who you are. So, yeah, a lot of these, I really like maybe you should try to get on Netflix. I like when you talk to people who've like not done the thing and they're like, yeah, why don't you just, you know, get a show on the most popular streaming platform? That's what I would have done first thing. It's like, oh my God, thank you. I had not thought of that. Like, what do you think? What do you think? It's amazing. And we're gonna wrap up with just like a nice little chunk of sexism from Reb Johnson. She says at the groundling school, she was told women aren't funny, so that was dumb. Yeah, that's not helpful or true. All right, if you want some good advice after all this bad advice, thank you to everybody who contributed to this. You can follow them, check them out in the description below. They're all very awesome, very talented peeps. A lot of network members in there and a lot of people who are just super cool. See what they're doing. If you want some actual good advice, you've got to download our How to Nail Your First Audition guide. This book is great. If you're new to acting, not sure where to start looking for auditions, if you're not feeling confident, if you just like to increase your confidence, maybe you have been on some auditions, but you just really didn't feel prepared or weren't sure if you handled it right. And if you're working without an agent and you're looking for gigs, this will be really helpful if any of those things describe you. So go ahead, go download that guide, go get it in the link in the description below. But most importantly, let's go act in some stuff.